Oh.
You're recording me, Laura?
Is that okay? Do you
Oh,
want
that's totally fine. I'm just giving.
Oh, okay. It just got set up that way, so I can stop it though if you want.
I'm excited to be recorded.
We actually we make them available afterwards, you know. So
No problem.
okay, and
I'm
we
just
can.
giving you a hard time.
And hello, how are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm good. I don't know if you know, I was away for the month of September. I had some surgery, and I'm doing okay. So
Oh, I did not know that, and I'm glad you're doing okay.
thank you. And I'm happy to share details off of the recording at some point when we see each other next or whatever. It's actually kind of a cool story. So
Okay.
in another format, I'm happy to share details with you.
I can I do a screen share on my side?
Yeah. So what I'm gonna do is I'll kind of be in the background. I'm gonna make you a host. Oh, hold on. I'm actually gonna make you a host. So what's it doing? Whoops, I just muted you. Hold on. Hey, Ricky, let's stop this. Wait, maybe I can do it this way. Make a co-host. There we go. There. Okay, now you're a co-host. For some reason, you're still muted. Unmute. Can you unmute you? Try one more time. Why is it doing that? I can hear you talking, but you're still muted. I mean, I can see you talking.
How about that? How about
There we
that?
go. Okay, awesome. And how are you? Are you
I'm doing
good?
fantastic. Yeah. How about you?
Good. I'm doing all right. Yesterday was my first day back, and so I'm a little slow still. I'm not my typical Energizer bunny that I'm used to being, but we had our team meeting at 11:30 today, and it was really good to see people. And I talked up your class and talked about how amazing you guys are, and so hopefully we'll have a good group joining us today, any minute now.
Now, could you see the screen share? Could you see, what do you see on the main screen right now?
Lead Gen 3612.3 Power
Right.
Section 6 farming.
That's what we need then, right?
Yeah. A couple of things. Of course, I know you're better at this topic than anybody else, so feel free to go in whatever direction you want with it, because they haven't updated this class in a couple of years.
No, they haven't. And I taught it before, but I usually just go after my own stuff,
Good.
which I have all printed out in front of me right here.
Okay. And then the other thing is we have business planning clinics starting tomorrow.
Okay.
So if you want to interject anything about that and the importance of that class, our offices are running that class starting tomorrow. It's like a 2-day that we're starting tomorrow.
Absolutely. That sounds excellent.
Okay.
How many people do you think will be on this?
You know, this is for 3 offices. So typically it's anywhere from 20 to 50. Again, I have been out of the office. I was out the whole month of September, so I have no idea how these classes have been going, except that during my team meeting today, everybody was talking about how great they are and what a great job people have been doing. So, oh, and it made me admit you. So I will definitely stay on and admit people, because for some reason that's how it was set up. Nobody's asking to be admitted yet. So I will, if that's what's going on, I will definitely admit people.
Awesome. Because when I go to the full screen slide, I lose all capability of having control over anything.
Yeah. So I'll definitely stay in the background. And I'll mute myself and that kind of stuff. But I wanted to say hi and introduce you. So
it's good to see you, even though it's through Zoom, and I'm glad
I know. Crazy, huh?
I know.
How's Folsom doing?
Folsom's great. You know, as you know, that we merged with Shelby, and we're at 100. We just closed our 105th transaction of the year, and we're on track to about 170.
That's so awesome. I actually said that because I think you told me that a month ago when we were connecting. Okay, I'm admitting people as I'm seeing it now. that you were over 100. And so I bragged about you during our team meeting that you guys are crushing your goals this year. Woohoo!
We are. I know, it's pretty wild. And in a year where we have a lot of roadblocks.
Yep.
And we're still getting through, and that's not letting us stop you.
Good.
Also on this call is Natalie, who's our marketing manager. She's just going to be on it just to be in the background.
Okay.
And that's Natalie Dolan, and she's out there somewhere.
Okay, she hasn't. Oh yeah, Natalie, she's
Hello.
in. Hi. I'm admitting people too. As I see them asking to be admitted, I'm admitting them. So I will keep doing that.
So I probably won't call on Natalie, but
okay.
She's just in it just to be make
Do
sure.
you need me to make her a co-host?
No, I don't think
okay.
so.
All right. And you guys are all safe and healthy too?
Yeah, so far, knock on wood, you know, I mean, we've had a couple little scares here and there, but you know, everything is good so far.
I have two of my, well, between my husband and I, we have 5 kids, and 4 of them are college age. 1 of them is a little older, and two of my children have both had COVID already.
Oh my gosh, really?
And, yeah, fortunately, the typical mild case, thank God, because I will just say it as a parent, the younger kids are not being very careful, that 20-something group. So fortunately, my 2 kids that came down with it are doing okay.
Yeah, and you know, our numbers up here are significantly lower probably than you guys down there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what color we are in, but we can eat inside restaurants now.
Okay.
And so, you know, we'll just listen. I'm still wearing a mask, right? So good. Wherever I go, this is my mask right here.
Good.
Right?
Good idea.
I'm not anti-mask.
I kind of think, given that flu season is upon us as well, you may as well wear that mask. It's just going to keep everybody healthier anyway.
You know what's funny is because of the inoculums have been so low and our immune system's been boosted up right now because we're not being, you know, just whatever. A lot of like doctors that I listen to on podcasts are saying, based on the Australian data, this could be the most mild flu season we've ever had.
Yeah. Hope so. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, let's get started. Since to honor those people who are on time, you guys, thanks for being here, and I will continue to admit people. You're in for a treat. Ricky is an amazing presenter, and I can't think of a team in Northern California that does farming better than the Moore Real Estate Group, which stands for Martell O'Neill Real Estate Team Group. And so I love it that he is always willing to support our offices and teach on this content. And he and I were already talking that their team is so good at this that he is definitely going to use the lead gen farming information, but he's also going to go off of the information provided by KWU and just share with you guys what they do, which is another cool thing about Keller Williams, is that we have amazing agents, amazing top teams who are willing to share what they're doing with you. And then Ricky, I know you're going to talk about referral partners too, right?
Of course.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being with us. And I will let you introduce yourself the rest of the way. And also, I hope you're going to share your numbers from this year as well.
Laura, thank you so much for having me. It was an honor when you reached out and asked us to teach this topic because it's a super close, passionate topic to us. You know, we are a farm-driven team, meaning we don't buy leads. And I know that's like, oh, whoa, wait a second. You know, we actually, I've never bought a lead my whole entire life. And our business this year, obviously, like yours, has kind of got a pause somewhere in that March, April, May time, where we weren't really sure what's going to happen. Yet we knew what we could control, and what we can control was not putting our head in the sand and just saying, well, so that was a good run, right? Instead, we pivoted immediately, and in April 1st, we set a new GPS 90-day goal, where at the end of July, you know, April, May, June, at the end of June, our GPS was to sell 50 homes in the next 90 days. And we pivoted into more of a mind share conversation instead of a market share conversation. And the reason we focused on mind share was because we knew at some point we were going to get out of this, and we were going to still be in business. While Gary said 50% of them will be out of business.
Yeah,
and
you have control. Mind share, you have control over, right?
You do. And we'll talk about mind share here in a second. Yet what happened was after those 90 days, our goal of 50 homes, you know, on the 91st day, we sold 52 homes.
Wow. God. Okay, I think you guys need to unmute yourselves and clap on that one. That's amazing.
No. I'm not saying it to brag or to try to get accolades. What I'm saying is that it didn't let us stop us.
Yeah.
And you know, this week we're at 105 transactions for the year, and we're going to be about 175 for the year.
Wow.
So far.
Well, that's amazing. Well, congratulations. I'm going to go ahead and hide myself and mute myself, but I will be here in the background, and I will keep letting people in. Okay, Ricky?
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Laura.
All right. Thank you.
So if you guys have questions at all, just chime in, right? I don't, on my screen, I can't see you guys. So if you have questions, just chime in for a question, and you know, we'll get going. For some reason, I can't even switch. Oh, there we go. Okay. So I'm just gonna try to minimize my screen here real quick here. All right, guys. So can everyone see these slides? Again, yes. Okay. Again, my name is Ricky O'Neill with the More Real Estate Group up here in the Sacramento region. Our hub is actually in the Folsom office. We have a team in Roseville and also in the downtown Sacramento. More Real Estate Group stands for Martell O'Neill Ryburn Experience. A lot of you guys probably remember Shelby Ryburn as an area director. She's now one of our business partners, and the R for in the More Group. Right now, you know, we're at, like I said, 105 units without buying a lead all year. I know I've talked to a lot of you guys before about hyper-local marketing and all those kind of fun things where, well, guess what happened with hyper-local marketing? Event-based teams right now, that kind of went away because we can't get out and do events anymore, right? Because there's this thing called COVID. And for some reason, my screen's still not turning, and I don't know how to do this. So if I can make...
I think it's just a delay, Ricky, because it's moving. Maybe it's just delaying a little bit. Do you want me to make what was your gal's name? Do you want me to make her a co-host?
No, that's fine.
No?
Sure,
okay.
you can make her a co-host. I just want to see myself in the corner here, so to make sure I'm still on camera. And right now, I just see San Jose Gateway.
Can you guys see him? I can see him.
Everyone see me all right? Okay.
You.
Well, I won't worry about that then. So power session number 6, of course, this is a KWU class, and also somewhat not, I wouldn't say outdated, just not updated, right? There's still farming, you know, listen, we're going to talk about what is a farm. We're going to talk about myths of farming, how to select your farm, working your farm, and then putting it all together. I know a lot of us probably have this packet right here that, you know, we're definitely going to touch on, but I want you to jump to page number 4 real quick. You can jump to page number 4, and page number 4 talks about kind of you know, where you are today. And so I don't want you to put a lot of energy into this yet. I want you to think about, okay, where am I today, and who do I need to become to be the person that I want to be tomorrow? And that might be, hey, listen, I might have to, you know, talk to 5 more people a day. I might have to door knock, you know, maybe 3 more homes a week. Now, of course, door knocking, whatever. I might have to do more COVID compliant activities. I might have to maybe strike up a conversation with the people in my neighborhood. And so the question is we're right. Of course, business planning clinic is in your office tomorrow, I think. And so our goal on this class is to walk away thinking, hey, you know what? I wasn't really interested in maybe having a farm, yet business planning is tomorrow. We're putting together our GPS. I'm going to add a GPS farm to my GPS this year. And before we get going, I really would like to see myself in the screen here so that I could see it, make sure that you're seeing what I'm seeing. and I just don't know.
I think you can switch to speaker view or gallery view. It should be.
Yeah, I need the speaker view on mine, but I can't do that on my end for some reason.
And Natalie, I made you a co-host in case you want to help.
Let me ask you guys right now, can you see, is it a full screen of the slides, or do you see like the sidebars and stuff?
We see the sidebars and the slides on the right.
Okay. Okay. So could you see, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna draw a box around here so I know that you can see in this area, because I don't see myself. So you can see that box, and that's perfect. Okay, very good. Sorry guys, I'm really not a rookie when it comes to Zooming, but for some reason today it feels like I am. So before we even get going, have you guys thought much about your GPS for the year? GPS, of course, stands for what? So the GPS, or 135. Listen, I know you guys know what this is. The G stands for goals, the P stands for priorities, and the S stands for strategies, okay? And so the G is the 1, the P is the 3, and the S is the 5. And so when you lay this out in the business planning clinic, you're probably going to do that. It's going to look for something like this, right? Where you have your 1, your 3s, and then your 5s, okay? Does that look familiar to a lot of people? So yeah. Thank you. So what I want your mindset to be during this topic, this time, is I want, when you're laying out your GPS and when you're thinking about today, and you're thinking about farming, and you're thinking about the things that we're talking about, I want you to think about having a 1-1-5. You probably never heard that before, huh? What if I told you your 1-1-5 should be so powerful so that you have your 1 here, then you have your 3 priorities there, right? And then your 5 strategies underneath your very first priority. What if I told you that this here should be so powerful and so amazing that it's going to get you to your goal just by doing these things? And these here is just going to be bonus on top. So when you're laying out your 135 and your GPS, your business planning clinic tomorrow, I want you to think about, is my very first priority so amazing, it's going to get me to my goals? And by doing that, you got to go, of course, run your numbers backwards, right? And so if it's farming, if it's data bank, if it's Sphere, whatever it is, I want it to be so amazing that it's going to get you to your goals. And we're going to do an exercise here in a little bit to kind of show you why it should get you there. So a couple ground rules. We're all here, have fun. My only ground rule is if you have a question, ask it, right? You can interrupt. I don't care. Just chime in, because if you are thinking about the question, most likely so is someone else, and that other person's maybe a little more shy than you are. So go ahead and ask. Don't be shy, okay? All right, so like I said, we got here to page 4, lead generation activities, your aha from these activities, and the most difficult part of the activities, what I will do differently in the next 24 hours. It's kind of like what I just asked. Who do I need to become so that I'm a better person tomorrow than I am today? Who do I need to become so that I'm going to reach my goals? What do I need to do differently? One question in leadership we have is, what kind of leader do I need to be so that no one will ever want to leave my world and people are begging to get into it? What if I asked you, what kind of realtor do I need to be so people are begging to be in my world and no one wants to leave it? Well, that's your farm, right? That should be your farm. And so when you're thinking of a farm, you got to think of like, how can I create such a really great farm? I was going to say badass farm. How do I create a badass farm where no one's going to want to ever think about anyone else except me? And part of that is kind of creating some mindset around that. So who are your guys' biggest competitors down there right now?
I'm going to have to say maybe Redfin.
Okay. Thank you, Yvonne, for participating.
You're welcome.
One rule I do have I know we talked about ground rules here.
Hmm.
One ground rule I have is just participating. So thank you you're winning right now, Yvonne. You're winning.
Woohoo!
So Redfin, who else?
Top agents.
Okay. Thank you. One more.
No, you're talking about, Ricky, are you talking about like
Other agents. Oh, pardon. I'm sorry.
other, no, it's okay, Viviana. Please help me out. You know,
Could you read this?
I think other agents is just farming my farm.
Could you read that right there?
No.
You.
I was almost going to say that, but that's what I was a little confused.
Now we can.
You are your biggest competition, okay? And the reason it's important to really understand that you are your biggest competition, especially in farming, because when we're talking about farming, every single one of you probably are thinking, gosh, I would really like to farm that area, but Redfin's already farming it. Or I would really like to farm my neighborhood, but Sue Thompson controls my neighborhood, right? So we've already set a limiting belief before we're even getting into this class.
Of course.
Right? And so am I wrong? Did anyone think about that when I said, let's talk about farming?
No.
People always think about it. They're always like, gosh, I can't farm in that neighborhood because this other person has it. Well, that tells me that person's not your biggest competition. You're your biggest competition because you're already setting yourself up for failure by saying, I can't XYZ. So here's the thing. You can do whatever you want and you can farm wherever you want. The only thing, and so starting off right is you can farm whatever you want, wherever you want. Now, is it the right farm for you? We're going to talk about that, right? Because there's certain measure and criteria on how to target a perfect specific group of habitat nets that would go into your farm, where maybe your neighborhood that you want to farm, maybe that's not a good area to farm. And it's not because there's another agent in that area, it's because maybe the turnover is like 0.5%. That's not a good area to spend money in if the turnover is like 0.5%. Do you guys know about turnovers?
I was going to ask,
Yes.
How do you know the turnover if you haven't farmed it yet?
So you go to your title company and ask them for the turnover. You circle it on a map and you say, hey, can you give me the turnover for this neighborhood?
Yep.
Right? So other things too is we got to know what our one thing is, right? Like right now, today I'm wearing my one thing shirt, right? And until my one thing is done, everything else is like, unnecessary. Okay, so when you're talking about business planning, setting up your goals, setting up your 135, your GPS, make sure you're focusing on one thing. And also your lead gen pillars. Listen, farming's not for everyone. Cold calling, circle calling, door knocking, open house is not for everyone, right? But I can tell you right now, the book, in the red book, page 138, there's a lot of stuff for everyone. There is a lot of stuff for everyone. And yes, the book is an older book, but I can tell you right now, 138, there's still tons of really great value on page 138, where you really need to dig into that page and find the lane that fits you. I'm a big believer when it comes to pillars that we should really only have two or three pillars in our lead gen that gives us 90% of our business. It's actually factual that over 90% of our business comes from 5 sources or less. What if I told you, what if we just focus on 3 of those next year in 2021 at a high level and go deep, not wide? We are going to potentially double our business. What happens in this business, and we all know, is we try something once or twice, it doesn't work, so we give up. There's zero consistency in what a lot of agents do. Consistency saves you money, right? Consistency also makes you money. That's also in the book. Gary talks about it. So whatever you decide to do, in your farm, my suggestion to you is just be consistent with it. Okay? Any questions? All right, show of hands, and I want you to say aye. Who woke up this morning thinking, how can I sell a house today?
Me.
I did.
I.
Aye? Okay. Well, when you're farming, what if I told you your mindset should be waking up every day thinking, how can I build a new relationship today instead?
Right there.
An average agent wakes up every day thinking, how can I sell a house today? A mega agent like you guys, you wake up every day thinking, how can I build a new relationship today?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's why you're all here. You're all here to learn farming. And farming doesn't happen overnight, right? Think about it. Why do we call it farming? Because you have to nurture the soil. You have to plant the seeds. You have to water it, right? And then it takes a long time for that stuff to grow. That's all relationship-based building. A farm, having a farm is very unlikely that you're going to start your farm on a Tuesday and your phone's going to ring off the hook on Wednesday. These are relationships that you really need to build over time. And so our mindset needs to change. Our mindset needs to be like, I'm not in the business of selling homes. I'm in the business of building relationships. And as soon as you get okay with that mindset, your business, your life, everything else is going to go off the charts. And you're going to bust through ceilings where they're becoming your floor, back busting through another ceiling that becomes your floor. Change your thinking, change your world. I think that's a bold law, isn't it? So write this down. How can I build new relationship every single day? Any takeaway so far? Are we good?
Yes.
All right. So why are you here? Power of prospecting to target marketing, right? So, you know, there's a booklet, and I'm just going to go along the slides because of a Zoom on a following this, and following the screen at the same time. I just can't do that. So if it's okay with you guys, I'm just going to follow the screen, and then you guys can kind of just play catch up in here. Is that all right?
Sure.
Great. So the power of prospecting, right? Read, underline, and share. So we're on page 6. So, you know, someone is supposed to read this aloud if we were in a classroom, and then we're going to share our thoughts around it. Would anyone like to read this on page 6 aloud?
I didn't print it. Wait.
If no one wants to read it, why don't you read it to yourself? Give you about 15 seconds, but I really would prefer someone to read it aloud, and then we can kind of dig into it afterward.
Ricky, I'm not sure if I know I don't have it. Do you mind?
I don't have the book.
Okay, then you know what? Then we're not going to read it then. How about that? That sounds great. We're just going to go along the slides then. That's
Right.
I would.
Do you mind?
Can you read it to us? Can you read it to us?
No more. We're doing it our way now. No booklets anymore. We're just going to follow this because I think that really we're going to get.
Okay.
So all right, moving along. Pull out some things. Now it's time for you to talk. What will make this a great training experience for you? What are some things? Like, why'd you show up today? I'm going to write these down.
To
Practical.
generate more business.
Hey, that's a good one. What else?
Tips.
More
Learn.
biz. What was the other one? Pips?
Yeah.
Learn.
What's
Go
pip?
ahead.
Tell me what a pip is.
Tip. What's the tip
Yeah.
to make it work well?
Oh, yeah.
To get more confidence on how to do it right, to see what we are doing, what am I doing wrong, and make it better.
Improve.
Improve. There you are.
How about learn from an expert?
Okay. I think Laura really talked me up earlier, so no pressure, no diamonds.
No, you're
Well,
humble. That's good.
I think that we're going to be able to get through all these things. So what is farming, right? So when you have a farm, you got to take kind of that area of the farm, which I always like to say, for example, let's just throw that around a school, right? Let's just say like there's an elementary school in your neighborhood, and then that's going to be your farm. Make sense? And then the schools that feed into that will be your farm. Now, the schools will, as long as there's good turnover in that neighborhood, right? And then you narrow your market even tighter than that, right? So then you take the whole school district, and that'll be your farm. And then you can narrow it down to maybe 5 or 6 blocks. And then if that has a certain niche within there, like downsizers, upgraders, you can even narrow it down even more, right? And so it's important to kind of understand what kind of activities we can do within those farming areas to really build those relationships up at a high level. You know, we had our planning advance last Tuesday, a week ago today actually, where our team went to an undisclosed location. We had guest speakers, and we went over all of our teams. Every single agent on our team, was about 18 of us, for a GPS, and then our own individual ones. And for me this year, I realized that during COVID, because we were locked up for so long, I needed to do a better job of having more outreach in my farm. And I think that the way to think of it like that is being the mayor of your farm is super important, right? You got to be the mayor of your farm, or you're the mayor of your data bank. So,
No, questa qui. No, no, dormito.
sorry, what's that?
Ma questa qui è dormito.
So be the mayor of your farm or your parent. And then also some of the activities, right, we're going to talk about, like how to do simple community-based activities that add value to your area and to add value to your data bank. Now, I'm not talking about activities where we're doing trick-or-treating things, because right now we got to be very careful in what we do because of COVID. We're very sensitive to that. Yeah, there's other things to do, right, within our farm. What if we hosted a buyer-seller seminar, right? What if we kind of did a community spotlight? What if we did a showcase on someone who was a good neighbor? There's still other things to do to bring energy back into your farm. One other thing we want to talk about, and this is a big one, and we're going to get there, is are we connecting or colliding with our farm? Are we connecting or colliding with our data bank? Right? What I mean by that is when we discover our farm and we see other signs go up in the yard that's not ours, at the end of the day, we can get really upset about that other agent listing that house in our farm. Yet, whose fault is that at the end of the day? Ours. Brian, you're right. It's really that's our fault. It's our fault because we're not connecting with them at a high level. Have you ever gone to Starbucks or Target and you run into someone that's in your farm or your data bank and they just told you they bought or sold a house? Yes, happens to all of us, right?
It's happened to every one of us.
Every single one of us. And what happens is we get really upset for a second, and then we get mad at that person. And then once the dust settles, we realize that we haven't talked to that person in 2 years, right? Or maybe I should have invited them to that event. Or maybe I should have said hi. Or maybe I should have been friendlier, right? So when I talk about having more of be the mayor and connecting, really, you got to be connecting. Just sending out a mailer once a month is not going to cut it anymore. Just not going to cut it anymore. We got to go 3-4 more steps beyond that. And Natalie, I know you're on the phone, you're on the call here. Natalie's our marketing coordinator. If she wants to chime in on anything about farming, please do. She's on the call. She's outside my office. So write this down. We got to connect with our farm. So are we connecting or colliding with our farm? Another thing is we don't really have the right to get creative in our business until we've done something that's proven to work. there's so many people out there who are trying to get creative and do these crazy things and this, and that, and the other, and they do it once or twice, they spend a bunch of money on it, it doesn't work, and then they go out of business. Well, listen, there are 1 trillion people in the KW network that's doing something that you want to do, right? They're already doing it at a high level that gives you energy. So what if I told you that, you know what, if you put something out in the world on any of these Facebook pages and says, hey, I'm thinking about doing X, Y, and Z in my farm, I can guarantee you're going to have 10, 20, 30, maybe 50 people comment and give you their playbook on what they're doing. So the reason I say that is because I see newer agents, seasoned agents, whomever, get distracted by shiny objects and want to try something that's out of their lane that just has really no success track record. Does that make sense? So we just have to make sure that we're not getting too creative in our businesses and do something that's proven to work. By the way, that's another quote from Gary in the Red Book. So far, I haven't made up anything. I basically just regurgitated everything that's already in this book. Just so you guys know, I haven't made up anything yet so far. I'm just doing what this book says. If you want to do a farm, put it on your goals, right? Create playbooks, R&D playbooks, do whatever you do. Be committed to it, right? One of the things we say in our businesses is we're committed to the committed. We're committed to the committed of the people in our farm. We're committed to those in our business, our agents, our staff, our VIPs. We're committed to the committed. So whatever you do, just commit to it. Listen, you know, we were doing this morning, we did a group interview with a gentleman who wants to join our team. And he said, well, why is it that 100 people will get licensed today and next year only 5 of them will still be in business? And my response to that was because a lot of those 95 people try something once, it doesn't work, and they give up. Have we all seen that? You say, I want to door knock. So you door knock one day, it doesn't work, you give up. You want to do an open house. You do an open house one weekend, it doesn't work, you give up. Farming is that long-term relationship thing, right? We got to work the soil. We got to plant the seed. We got to water it. We got to feed it nutrients. Then we watch it grow, and we're not going to be able to pick the fruit off of that and harvest until maybe 8 months, 12 months later. Do you guys know what the law of emotional proximity is? So the law of emotional proximity is exactly why you guys are here and you want to farm. So this is, can you guys see that okay? I need a darker color, don't I? The law of emotional proximity. So what we're looking at is a, is that better?
Yes.
That's kind of better, yeah, okay, good. So this is like kind of just a lot of, this could mean a lot of different things, but in this exercise, it means the time between these peaks are the time that people buy and sell real estate, okay? So it's about every 5 to 7 years. And if you are a lead buyer or most agents, you really only care about this section right here, which is the 60 to 90 days out from buying or selling real estate. Have you heard this before? Right? My nurtures, the only people I care about, they're interested in buying 60, 90 days. If you're not interested in 60, 90 days, I don't want to talk to you. Yet, when you're farming and when you're nurturing and when you're connecting, the most important time in a transaction is the day after they close, because that's when you're starting the experience with the people, and that's when they're going to be sending you referrals, they're going to think of you, they're going to be your allied resources, your allied partners, and this time period right here is the most important. Because if you have 100 people in your farm, 100 people in your database, it's not about it's not about them, it's not always about just them buying or selling in the next year, 2 years, or 5 years, it's who they know, right? And so a lot of having a farm, you got to create scripts and dialogues around it. One of my very favorite scripts is something that goes like, hey, by the way, if you overhear someone wanting to buy or sell real estate, Do you have a go-to realtor who you refer business to? So we're not just asking that person when they're ready to buy or sell. We're asking who else do they know that if they overhear someone buying sell, they refer a business to. Is it true that most people in our database are not connectors? It's true.
True.
Most people in our database are not connectors. Most of our spouses are not connectors. Most of our neighbors are not connectors. Right? And what I mean by that is most people don't think like us, right? We have to do what? We have to teach people how to treat us. And so we have to teach our data bank and our farm how to treat us. We gotta remind them that, listen, I know you're never going to sell your house, yet if you overhear someone wanting to buy or sell, do you have a go-to realtor who you refer business to? That's going to give them kind of that mind shift where they're thinking, gosh, you know what? I got to be on the lookout. Next time I'm at Starbucks and someone in front of me is thinking about buying or selling, I'm going to say, hey, you got to call Ricky O'Neill. And so we got to be the mayor. We got to have that mind share. And that's part of this mind share discussion we're going to talk about. So yeah, put in your goals and then track your activities. If you're farming in an area that has little to no turnover, maybe and you're tracking it hard, probably maybe not good, right? So you got to make sure you track that activities every six months to 12 months just to make sure that you're getting it on track. And then we have to highlight the activities that are giving us our most results. Like I said earlier, 90% of our business comes from 5 sources or less. Really, it's really a top 3 sources, so track that. And then do your math backwards, right? You say, if I make X number of contacts per week, that will give me X number of appointments, which will in the end create X number of transactions. And I'm going to do an awesome exercise for you here, probably closer to the end of the chat. That's going to make you guys, it's going to blow your guys' mind. So choosing a farm, right? Choosing a farm. I think it's a great idea to stay close to your home. First of all, are there any questions right now? I would prefer you staying close to home in your farm area. And because that's the area you know the best, right? How can you be a mayor of your farm if your farm is 30 miles away? That's the area you know the best. Because essentially you're already the local expert, right? So when you're geographic farming, it's like, listen, target by country, state, metro area, subdivision, neighborhood, street. Like you got to be in an area where you're very familiar with, right? And then know the demographics, right? Do your research. Go ahead.
I have a question.
Go for it.
So say for example, I completely agree with you that you staying closer to where you live because you know the area. What about, say I sold something in another area, just one house. So although I get the next sellers in that area, do you think it doesn't make sense for me to farm that area unless I'm consistent?
Well, farming is all about being consistent. Like I said, it's if you're farming an area, you need to work the soil, plant the seed, water it, nurture it, watch it grow, then you finally get to harvest 8 to 12 months later. So it's important I'm not talking about, farming isn't like I sold a house. So I think, Mayor, what your question is if I sell a house that's outside, that's 30 miles away, right? Mm-hmm. I sold or bought a house 30 miles away. Of course, you're still going to prospect around that listing. Right. So you're going to do your circle calling. I know you're going to do circle calling because I know who you work with. I know you're going to send postcards. You're going to do all these awesome activities that's going to be able to create momentum around that listing or around that just sold.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily farming. That's just prospecting.
Okay.
Farming is kind of more of a long-term approach to building your business.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
No problem. So back to the topic real quick. Number one, just to recap, geographic. So, listen, you're already a local expert. You already have connections in that neighborhood. And you're more available to your clients in that neighborhood. right? If you want to be the mayor of your farm and they would need to call you and ask you questions about X, Y, and Z, then you already most likely know the answers of that stuff. And that's what people like. They like value. Do your research. Like who exactly is in your farm? What's their age, income, occupation, nationality is important sometimes, their language, so that, maybe I shouldn't be farming in an area that is mostly predominant by different demographics, right? I shouldn't farm in that area because I can't help them. So do some research before you get your farm. And some of the great things you should know, and maybe you want to write some of this down, is you should know the average income of your farm. You should know the average age of your farm. You should know if it's a commuter area or not. I'll get into that in a second. The largest employers of that farm, you should know. You should also know kind of like what type of homes are in your farm. Not just the architecture, but maybe the size. Because right now in our farm, we're seeing a lot of upgraders and downsizers. So if we're going to a hyper local farm, we know that a lot of people are downsizing. We're going to hit those 3,000 plus square foot homes a lot harder. You see what I'm saying? And then we're going to hit those single stories a lot harder because we know those 3,000ers are going to go into a single story. So you got to kind of know the type of homes in the neighborhood. Local amenities, right? Beaches, parks, trails, schools, nightlife, shopping, whatever it is, you got to know the local amenities in there. Transportation options, especially down in South Bay and Bay Area in general, where the public transportation is much more prevalent than maybe like a Folsom or in Roseville or Rockland up here. Now, it's still important to know transportation options because I'll give you an example. If you're farming in an area that a large portion of those people are using public transportation, where would you think maybe would be a good opportunity to farm in?
Bus advertising.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. So but don't do it if a lot of those people don't use public transportation, or they're not homeowners, or they're just not in that demographic to buy or sell it. You got to make sure you track your numbers. So I think that was Charles, right?
This is
Yep.
Lee. I go by Lee, actually.
Absolutely right. And then any kind of recent changes or coming changes to the area, because what happens is if there's an infill project or maybe some mansionization going on, or maybe a new storefront, some kind of small development, and there's not a lot of info about it, who do you think they're going to go to ask questions of? They're going to come to us. We're the mayor, right? I'll give you a great example, and this is being recorded, and I love my friends in Arizona. As a matter of fact, I'll be back there tomorrow. But I was teaching a class down there exactly a year ago this week, and across the street from one of their offices, there was a large 100-acre development. It was kind of like an infill project. It was all new home builds. And I had about an hour to kill before the class, so guess where I went? I walked over to the office of the new home build. And I just said, hey, listen, tell me about it. I'm from out of the area. Tell me what you got going on here. What kind of models, what are the price points, what are the starting points? Are you selling lots? What it look like, what do the upgrades look like? And just get information. So I went back in, just taught the class, and I said, hey, listen, you got to be the mayor of your farm, mayor of your database. And I said, as a matter of fact, what's going on across the street? A room of 100 people, not one person knew.
Not one person knew.
Yes, you're right. Whoever said that, you were 100%. Were you there? Were you in the room?
No, people don't find out what's going on in their area.
They don't. And it's like, come on. It's like that's the most easy thing. I'm from, 800 miles away, and I knew more about that development than 100 people in that office. And it's not to talk bad about those people. It's just a lot of times we're so focused in our own lane, we're not interested in other options. And I can tell you right now, if you don't have a new build kind of vision where you're thinking, you know what, maybe how can I get in a new build or send people there? Some of those are the easiest transactions you ever do in your life. And so I wanted to know all about it. And I became the expert in that little development and gave them a little 15-minute class on it. And I know darn well half that class probably went over there right afterward and started talking to those people. So be the expert in the area of what the coming changes are. Even if it's like road work, right? Do we all have road work all the time going on? Like literally they're always working on the road. Know what they're doing. You know, in Folsom a couple of years ago, there was road work all the time and people were calling me constantly, what are they doing? What are they doing? What are they doing? Well, I knew what they were doing. They were putting in new pipes for a new water system. And then I explained why they're doing it. They were doing it because to upgrade the piping system to feed a new development that's going south of 50. So you got to be that expert. Now, you got to be cautious of being the expert too on some of this stuff because, you know, we've all gotten in trouble by referring a painter or a contractor who was just ended up being terrible at the end of the day. And so it falls back on us. So be cautious when you're doing those kind of things. Yet just being a wealth of knowledge of what's going on in your neighborhood is super important. Psychographic farming is something that people really haven't touched on up until recently. And I think that the reason that psychographic farming is becoming more popular is because of COVID, you know, because of the demographic, because of the general farming where, you know, our door drops, door knocks, this, that, and the other, open houses, we've kind of had to shift that a little bit. And so we're now kind of psychographic farming is more targeting some people who have similar interests, similar hobbies, similar lifestyle, similar values, you know, similar investment interests. And I think right now in this day and age where unfortunately our political climate is either you're against us, you're either with us or you're against us. And if you're against us, we wish you the worst in life. We can't be like that, right? Because we have to respect that everyone is different and everyone has different beliefs. And so we see a lot of signs in yards nowadays. And I hope that when you see those signs, and I'm not talking global, I'm not talking politics, I'm talking local politics, school board, city council, whatever it is, wherever you drive right now, you're going to see signs in the yard. You know, don't let that get to you because at the end of the day, we're all human. We all think that what we think is the best for society in that area. And so, and when they want to buy or sell and you're in the farm, they're going to still call you, right? And so we have to make sure that we're being mindful of that. You know, there's a low, and I love it when I see on like local chat pages where other real estate agents are just like blasting the other candidate or doing this. I think, perfect. They lost half of their business. That means I'll get that market share. Because no one has any idea of my political beliefs, which is I'm planning on keeping it that way too, by the way.
You got to be Switzerland.
Yeah, listen, I'll vote for anyone if I get his listing sign. I'm kidding. That was a joke. That's a funny joke here. It might not be as funny down there. So yeah, we should change. We're going to choose well-defined boundaries. You know, we talked about the boundaries a little bit earlier, but make sure that your boundaries are well-defined. Now, psychographic farming, I want to just talk about. Does anyone have any kind of creative, not creative, but things that they've done in the past that fall into psychographic farming that's been successful and worked at a high level that they'd like to share?
I did one years ago. This is Lee. I did one years ago, and it was simply a very simple idea. There had been a robbery in the neighborhood, so I decided to get together with a homeowner, and we had a seminar that I went over and talked to the local police department and fire department, and they both did some presentations. It was very helpful for the neighborhood, and also people began to visualize me as a trusted advisor versus a broker.
Nice. Anyone else? I know up here, a lot of our agents on our team really focus on this psychographic farming. You know, paddle boarding is really popular up here because believe it or not, we're a beach town. We're like, now listen, I don't I don't know how, but we're like the number 18th best beach town in all of the nation, and we have just a couple rivers and a lake. But anyway, people love to paddleboard. And so one of our agents created this paddleboard club where, she gathers, once a week with this group of people paddleboarding. Shelby's husband, Matt, who's also an agent on our team, has this workout group, right, where he meets every morning at like 6 in the morning, and it went from like 15 guys to over 90 in 3 months, right? Why do you think it went from 15 to 90 in 3 months?
Because people talked about it.
And the gyms were closed. So that's what I'm talking about in the beginning when I said a lot of people buried their heads in the sand and the rest of us were looking for opportunity. So, if the gyms were closed and people need that, they had that need to go out and work out and do activities, what better way than to create a workout club where you're building it at a high level, or maybe a paddleboarding club that gets people out to be active, where they can't go to gyms. So we created these awesome environments for people to get what they need in life, to provide them fulfillment on what they're missing. So when they're going to buy or sell, or over here someone wanted to buy or sell, who do you think they're thinking of, right? So that's kind of the thing. Now the difference between like a regular geographical demographic farming versus a psychographic farming is it's kind of comes from more organic relationship building, where you create a common interest or a hobby or lifestyle, and that kind of just comes into conversation. You're not actively always prospecting and saying every single time you go to work out every morning, you're not opening up the workout by saying, all right, everyone, who do you know who wants to buy or sell real estate in the next 60 to 90 days? That's not the way it is. It's kind of, you just get there where you're building it at a high level where people are going to think of you at the top. So any questions right now? Am I moving too fast? Am I going right at good speed?
That's perfect.
Is it okay if I skip over some of these exercise slides just for the sake of time and because you guys don't have a packet?
Yeah, it's totally fine.
Great. Thank you, Brian. So let's talk about farming. Myth 1, farming takes too long and costs too much. Where the truth is, farming can become the core of your business. Now, you can spend a lot of money on farming. However, I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend doing the cheapest things possible. For example, there's two other realtors who send postcards in my neighborhood, and they both think they're the expert. But Natalie, if you want to chime in here, is putting together a pretty sweet piece that kind of really breaks down numbers and who actually does the most business in that neighborhood. Now, the thing is we're not doing it to brag. We're here to our job is to actually present facts, right? And if you a friend of mine last week says to me, hey, I know like 3 realtors, and why are you guys always busy? You guys are always busy. You guys are just always busy. And I said, well, who are the other 2 you know? And he mentioned these 2 ladies. And I said, gosh, I don't know what she's busy doing because she hasn't sold a house in 2 years. Right? But the perception that he had was they're always busy. Oh, God, you guys are always busy. You must be number 1. And we all know that realtors exaggerate their numbers. So it's our job to kind of just present the actual facts. Now, the beautiful thing about KW, one of the many beautiful things about KW, is that we are allowed to use our office statistics, our market center statistics, to help support our goals. So if you're newer, or maybe you're not in a farm yet and you want to be, and Laura, you can correct me if you're wrong, but I know our market center uses a lot of just the general market center numbers to help tell stories like, did you know that we're outperforming the market by 119%? Or do you know that we have 5.6% market share in your area and the next closest to us is only 1%? I mean, it's okay to tell those stories, right? We want to tell the story.
Yeah, we do it. Language of real estate, LORE. We do that every month.
Right, exactly. And so, and then we could use all of our, the beautiful thing is we could use the whole entire market center stats to help your business. And I have such passion around that. And I think that's just a beautiful thing that San Jose Gateway and a lot of the other KW offices do. So back to the myth that you could spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in your farm every year and really have little to no return on that. Or you can find other ways to reach your people on next to nothing costs, right? So if you looked into a postcard cost versus a door drop cost, that's probably going to save you about 75% with a much higher opening rate. There are, and again, you got to check your local, your local laws and regulations on COVID right now and what you can and can't do, or don't, and just, you know, do it and ask for forgiveness later. But the thing is you can door drop stuff, right? So we have a company up here who door drops something on our farm every single month, and it's our newsletter. And they're tracked by GPS, so we know that they're walking up to the door and dropping it, and going back down the driveway, and back up, and then back down. They're GPS tracked. And there's about 2 or 3 guys go out there. They bust out, 3,000-4,000 homes in a day, and they drop it right on the doorstep, where we know they're getting read, because when we do things like, buyer seller virtual seminar, or if we're doing a contest or reverse bold 100, we know they're getting it because they're calling us. But in a big, huge postcard that's the size of this, that says, look at all the deals I did, or look at this home I just sold, that's expensive. And that cost can go up quite a bit. So we've been doing door dropping. So it doesn't cost a lot. Like I said, it's like 75% of the cost on a postcard. Any questions on that? Myth 2, we talked about this. Someone else already dominates the area. No one is ever as dominant as you think. Guys, did I set this? Did I give you guys a soft pitch for this one where I said everyone tells their own story, and most of the time that story is not even real? I opened up the chat by asking you, who's your biggest competition in your farm? And a lot of you guys said Redfin, blah, blah, blah. Well, you're the biggest competition. That's just a myth. That's just a myth. Don't let that be your limiting factor. That there's already someone in my area that's dominating it, so I can't be in that area. Okay? No one is ever as dominant as you think. There's experts in our farm that calls them the expert, and they've only sold 2 houses in that area in the last 10 years. But they're telling everyone they're the expert. So you just have to make sure that you're telling the facts, and don't be afraid of those myths. Any questions? Myth number 3: a farm limits you to that area or specialty. No, that's just one piece of your large puzzle, right? We did our kind of example of our 135, and I think it was Mira who said, what if you sell a house outside your farm? Do you not prospect that ever? Of course you do. Of course you do. A farm does not have to be your only source of business. It should only be one source of your business. And if you do it at a high level, it's going to be a great source of your business. No, not. It's having an impact on the people in your farm, whether that's through your marketing and prospecting. We use a lot of words in real estate. We use prospecting, marketing, and branding. Okay. Well, the difference is prospecting. So the difference is branding is basically your logo. Right? Branding is your logo and what you put on it. Marketing is how it's getting in front of your people and the story you're telling. And prospecting is actually asking for the business. Right? So again, it's all in here. Okay, didn't make it up. It's all in there. And so there's a big difference between the three. And we should really understand those before we start a farm. You can stop and start your farming efforts. You must pursue your farm consistently and persistently. Guys, did we talk about this already? This is not a farm. You don't do a 1-month trial on your farm and see if it works. I mean, my question to you is, who's in this for a great year versus who's in this for a great career? Right? If you're in this we're all in this we're not in this business just for a good year. We're all in this business for a great career. And if we're in this business for a great career, then we have to be okay with farming and knowing that our efforts, being consistent in our activities and our efforts are going to pay off long term. We got to be okay with an understanding that it's going to take 8 months probably for us to really start seeing the reward on our farm. We have to be okay with saying, like, you know what, there's 2 other people who farm in my neighborhood, but they're not me. I'm way better than they are, and I have way more value because I'm going to go that extra step. So a couple things before we get into this is that I wanted just to talk about is making sure your farm is the right size. You know, right size with your budget, right size with the carrying capacity. Are you hyper local in that one area within the school zone? Is there a niche that you're going to find within that area? We kind of talked about niches a little bit. We'll get into that in a second. And people always ask, well, how many homes should be in your farm? Well, listen, there could be 200 homes in your farm, or there could be 10,000 homes in your farm. You just got to run the numbers to make sure that they have that turnover. And if they don't have that high turnover in the global, if you have so much passion in a farm area, and you run the global numbers, and it's like a 1 or 2% turnover, then niche it down, right? Niche it down to, all right, well, tell me the numbers on single stories. Tell me the numbers on anything over 3,000 square feet. Tell me the numbers of people who've been there longer than 25 years. You see where I'm going with that? And you can break it down, chunk it down to little tiny, simplest forms where you know, okay, crap, holy cow, I just narrowed it down to people who've been in this neighborhood for over 25 years, and the turnover is 30%. So then that's going to tell you, holy cow, I need to go after the people in this neighborhood who's been here longer than 25 years. And so that's basically kind of niching it down and becoming much more hyper-local in that farm. Any questions right now? So when you're selecting a farm in your geographic farm area, some things to consider is does it fit your goals, right? Listen, not everyone wants to run a farm, and that's okay. It's not for you, that's all right. But if it is something you want to do, put it in your goals, be consistent with it, and just slaughter it. Create a budget around it. You want to create a budget around it because you want to be able to track it and what your ROI is. Do you guys know what ROI is?
An investment?
Yep. Size of your farm, 200 to 10,000, but then you can also chunk it down on the hyper-local scale too, right? You can have that niche in there. Haven't mets versus mets. Do you guys know what a haven't met is versus what a met is?
Well, haven't met would be somebody that's just getting your mailer versus somebody you've already connected with.
Yep, exactly. So one of our goals for our team this year is to add 10,000 new contacts to our data bank. Okay. Average sales price. It's good to know your average sales price in your farm. You probably want it to be a good average sales price. That turnover rate, number 7, is super important. What do you guys think a good turnover rate would be?
I'd like to say 5+% in a single family neighborhood in our area, but it's pretty hard to find. For us right now, it's like 3.5%, 4% would be where 5% probably was 5 years ago.
Who do you think at the end of the day is in charge of kind of creating the story around inventory.
Us at some level.
Exactly. Exactly. And so if you are farming on a 4 or 5% or even 3% farm, you know, then we maybe should be telling a better story on why this is a goat market and it's time to sell. Because as a seller, and especially if you're downsizing or you went out of the area or whatever it is, as a seller, it's goat market, greatest of all time, because they're obviously getting the most money for their house today than they would have ever gotten in the past. For the buyer, it's the goat market because their deal is the interest rate. The deal that the buyers are getting is the interest rate. And if you didn't see this slide go around, we created one and a couple other people did, where it kind of breaks down decade on interest rate versus sales price versus monthly mortgage payment. And it goes from like 1980, 90, 2000 to today. And it is remarkable just the difference that the interest rate is and how that affects your payment. Now, I know a lot of you guys down there are probably cash buyers and all that stuff. Well, you know what? A story you could tell is if you are close to retiring or a retiree, or maybe you work in the tech industry, do you know that 60% in the last 3 months, 60% of the buyers in the Sacramento area have been from exactly where you're sitting right now? And let me tell you it's even more of a fun fact. Almost 90% of those people are not represented. So if you're looking for a farm right now, why don't you farm to people who've been in their house more than 30 years? Tell them it's time to sell and cash out and buy in the Sacramento area. Because right now, I'm getting tons of Bay Area buyers who are not represented, meaning I don't have to pay a referral fee to anyone. They're coming from your backyard, yet they have no relationship with a realtor. And they're just walking in and sign calling us. And we're taking it. And I think to myself every time, why in the world are our friends in the Bay Area not marketing to their data bank and these people and telling the story? To me, it's mind blowing. I don't, you know, we're doing it to Reno and Idaho and then Charlotte, North Carolina. And those are like far away. You can be here in an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's a story to tell, right? So when we talk about farm, we're farming in areas that aren't even in our own backyard, including the Bay Area, because we know where the people are coming from. And we need to tell the story. And it's an interesting thing. Market conditions, right? It goes right into market conditions. We got to tell a story. Competition, you're your own competition. And you're fit for the farm. So moving along. So we create your goals. So market share, gross closed income, you got to make sure you track all that stuff, right? Set a budget, right? Set a budget. How much time am I going to be focused on this activity? And what's my budget? Where's my threshold, right? When do I say, you know what, this is not making me any money, I need to press eject? You got to do it for at least, like I said, listen, you're 12 months. Stick it out for 12 months. Stick it out for 12 months. Start small. You know, so you can start with just 200 homes. You can start on a niche, right? You can start on just people who've been in their house since the 60s. And then you can grow it out. Really, the funny thing is if you start small, it's only 200 people. It's a lot easier to meet all those 200 people. A lot easier to manage. It's cheaper. And if you ask them the right questions, like, hey, listen, I know you're never leaving, yet if you overhear someone buy or sell real estate, do you have a go-to realtor who you refer business to? And then you stay in touch with them and connect with them on a regular basis, be consistent with them, they're going to think of you first. They're going to think of you first.
Yep, that's true.
Thank you for agreeing with me. Whoever that person was. Accessibility is easy, you know. I mean, there's so many. Like, listen, you know, we have some agents who farm rural neighborhoods. You guys don't have a lot of rural neighborhoods down there, but you do want it to be accessible to other things. Clear boundaries are always good. Kind of home, we talked about that. And then in your farm too, you know, you got to track the number of habit minutes versus Mets. If you were to take your data bank, do you guys know why I call it data bank? So if you have money in your bank right now, how does the money get into your bank?
We deposit.
Thank you.
We deposit it, yes. That's an easy question.
Thank you. Very easy, right? But apparently you were the only one that knew. So you deposit, and you also make deposits into your data bank, right? What kind of deposits do you do in your data bank or your farm?
Client.
Names, addresses, phone numbers.
So those are like touches. Okay, when you're making deposits into your data bank, those are touches, those are nurtures, those are coming from contribution, right? Those are hosting bike parades and community yard sales, and community barbecues, family picnic days, photos with Santa, Easter egg hunts, softball tournaments, kickball tournaments. Those are deposits into your data bank, right? Guess what I'm doing on Saturday night? I invited my top group to the movie theater that just opened up that's making no money. So I called them and said, hey, listen, how much would you charge me to rent out the whole entire theater if we're COVID compliant? Guess how much money they said? $100 freaking dollars.
Wow.
$100.
Wow.
$100. And we're doing Back to the Future. Okay?
Oh,
we're doing
fun.
Back to the Future. And let me show you this real quick. And Natalie's on the phone. She made this really cool thing yesterday. So then I sent this out to my top group, right? To invite them. You're invited.
Oh.
Private showing, Back to the Future. People are like, holy cow, that's amazing. I spent $100 on that. That comes with popcorn.
Wow.
Okay, so that's a deposit, right? Is that a deposit?
Oh, yeah.
So we go to the bank side of things, and in order to take out withdrawals, we have to make in deposits. That's why it's called a data bank, because we know that our base salary is our data bank. And in order to take out deposits, or in order to take out withdrawals, we got to do deposits. And if you don't have any takeaways today, this should be your one takeaway. Any questions on that? Good. Again, it's important to know, listen, if you work your goals backwards and you say, I want to make X number of dollars this year in GCI. I know my average commission is X. I know my average sell price is you know, 900,000. My average commission is 2.5%, 3%. That, and then you run that by divided by your GCI goal, and you know how many units you're going to sell that year. So does your average sales price support your goals? And if it doesn't, you need to find a different farm. National average is 4%. Your target farm should be at least 10%. We know right now in this market, it's not 10%, but if you can get something between 6 and 8%, you're killing it, right? You're killing it. My goal is to have 6 to 8% in the farm. What's cool is our farm, we sell over 33%. Our fingerprint is over 33% of all transactions in that farm. but it didn't happen overnight, right? Didn't happen overnight. So we kind of did this a little bit in my previous kind of exercise, right? I said 5 to 7 years, and they're saying, 8 to 10 years, just being fun of them. The other thing that's interesting, I'm sorry, what was that?
May I ask you a question?
Of course.
Okay, let me, yeah, this is me. I would like to know if I want to start a new farm and I go and see in MLS how many people, how many homes sold in that area. Is it better that many houses sold in there? There is a lot of activity in the area. Is that better?
Yeah, I mean, that's what the turnover rate kind of is saying, that if there's 10% turnover in that neighborhood, then it's essentially saying of every 100 homes, 10 homes are being sold every year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot, right? We're not seeing that in this current market. It's just not a 10% turnover right now because of inventory. However, we need to up our game and tell the story to help increase that inventory, that turnover to a better number.
Okay.
Now, other market conditions, days on market, expired listings, you shouldn't be going into a farm where the days on market is an average of 100 days in a seller's market. That's a bad farm. That means that either those people in the neighborhood think their homes are worth way more than they are, or no one wants to live in that neighborhood. So that's kind of not a good farm to be in. Mindshare, I opened up talking about mindshare, and some of the things that we did during COVID, the first time around, is focus on mindshare. Now, mindshare will get you market share. And some of the things that we did during quarantine and lockdown and everything is adding tons of value to our farm and our data bank by coming from contribution. We did a bunch of COVID compliant virtual stuff, right? We did a virtual Cinco de Mayo party where we got some local Mexican restaurants to help participate and do kind of a live feed to tell us all about their business, and they're doing takeout. We did kind of this fun tequila tasting contest thing. We had a piñata. We did we did some prizes and giveaways. We had something like 800 people tune into that show that day. And how we did it is you had to be, how when you registered for this Zoom today, you had to put in your information?
Mm-hmm.
We did it like that. So all 800 people that registered that want to be part of this had to give us their information so we can put into our data bank. So when you're talking about mindshare, you want to be kind of like, in front of people, coming from contribution, providing something of value, doing something that gets recognized in the community. Another thing we did when we could was for our data bank and our VIPs, mindshare, we started like delivering them some items of need, like toilet paper. Remember those days when everyone was running out of toilet paper? Right? And then we did like chalk. A lot of people were doing chalk art. And so we found a bunch of chalk for cheap, and we delivered a bunch of chalk to people. And so that was just being in front of them, right? Mindshare, letting them know that we're here for them if they need anything. We also called our data bank and our farm like crazy, just saying, hey, listen, we know times are tough, times are weird. We're here to talk. We're here to add value. We're here to help you. Whatever you need, let us know.
Ricky?
Yes.
Question. That was one of my questions I wanted to ask you about generating phone numbers and emails for your farm. And what's the best source to get those?
So write this down. Our goal should be getting into our data bank's database. So question isn't who is on our data bank. Okay, because we know that that's our base salary, and the more we put into it, the more we're gonna be able to take out. But the bigger question is, how do we get into our data bank's database,
Right.
right? So think of it, how can I, so if my database has only 100 people in it, and I invite all 100, and all those 100 people get married, and they all invite 100 people, how many people really should be in my data bank? It's 100 times 100, and that number is 10,000. So how do you do that is the question, where you offer incentives where, like any kind of online or buyer seller seminar, virtual event, you make it a requirement or a request that they invite a friend. And if they invite a friend, they're going to get an extra coupon or raffle ticket into the drawing. Like on a reverse bold 100, when people are calling you, that's in your data bank, and you're going to say, hey, listen, I'll give you 5 extra raffle tickets for this awesome Traeger grill or Peloton bike if you can give me 2 other phone numbers of people who would also could use a Traeger or a Peloton bike. You see what I'm saying?
Okay. Right. Now, what about if you have a specific farm? I hear you. That's more of a targeted group, right? Which I know that's what a farm is. But do you have a good source for if we are? Let me back up. The reason why I'm asking is some of my the people that I'm working with are asking me what's a good source to get legitimate phone numbers and emails, or mainly phone numbers. Huh?
So
They're fine.
yeah. So I think that like Cole Realty is a source that a lot of people use. We use Property Radar, and Cole Realty is the source. Cole Realty and Property Radar are the 2 that we use, I believe.
Okay.
Get the phone
Haven't
number.
heard of. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, but back to my point about getting into your database, because that's really at the end of the day our ultimate goal. You know, we're working our farm at a high level, really to get into our farm's database, right? Because the question is, you know, our farm might not have the turnover we want, but even though we're the mayor of that farm, we want those people to introduce us to people so we can grow our business. And we did something very in the beginning of the lockdown where we gave away a Peloton. And if any of you guys are friends with us and you follow us on Facebook, you see what we did. We added something like 5,000 new people to our database during that giveaway. And they weren't random people. They were actually, we only shot this out to our data bank. And in order for people to win, they had to get the most points. And in order to get the most points, you had to share the link. And when you shared the link, and whoever clicked on the link and registered from that person's link, it led back to that original person who got more points. And it was a software program that we inserted into our website called Gleam. Gleam, you can check it out. And it was amazing. And at the end of our lockdown in those 6 months from March till early September, right? We added over 9,000 new contacts to our data bank. Think about that. And they weren't random people. They were people that were 1 person away, right? So we were 1 person away. So it wasn't just these random people out there. There were people that knew us already. Then now we got into their people's world. And there's a million ways of doing that. And I can talk all day on that, and I would love to. And if we have time at the end, I'll give you some more tips on that. But we only have like 30 minutes left, and I got a couple things to get through. So demographic and psychographic farms. You know, again, set your goals, budget size, accessibility, have events, motivation, current trends. We talked about that. Remember current trends? We got to tell the story. Remember in the very first couple months of COVID, if you watch the news, you would think that the real estate market is crashing, the market's crashing, and the world is going to blow up any second. Am I right or wrong?
Right.
So, but was that the real case after we kind of got through on how to figure out how to do virtual showings and interest rates dropped and people's home prices were still going up? That wasn't the real story. That wasn't the real story. So we had to tell our own story. Now, I know the Bay Area was different because you guys were on lockdown for a lot longer than we were. However, I think you guys have made a little bit of recovery, haven't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right. And so, but it had to do with us having that mind share and telling our own story, because the news wasn't going to give it to you. And that's fine. They have their own job to do. Yet we went from doing a monthly email to a weekly email, because that weekly email basically said something like, you know, coming from contribution, and here are the weekly statistics for your neighborhood. And guess what? Those numbers on those weekly, after they got those weekly updates 2 or 3 times in a row, they started seeing, you know, home prices go like this, right? And they started seeing interest rates go like this. And they started seeing inventory, you know, kind of go like this, right? And so we had a story to tell, and we had to tell it at a high level. We did that on a weekly basis to our farm and our data bank, which really, in the end result, I think has got us where we are today. We don't buy leads, and we're not a low-hanging fruit company. We're super intentional in what we do and the activities that we do, and we track everything that we do. So we had to tell our story on that. So we talked about this a lot, you know, popular niches. You know, I don't know enough about each one of your guys' areas to tell you what's right and wrong to do. These are just some examples. However, what I can tell you, what I do know, is that I'm not lying when I said 60% of the buyers that came up and bought homes in the last 60 to 90 days in Sacramento area are from your backyard, and 90% of them are not represented. Something to chew on. Something to chew on that. One thing too I want to talk about is vacation farming. So I do this. I was down in Santa Barbara about 4 times this summer. In normal circumstances, I spend about 30 to 45 days in Maui every year. And prior to going out there, I always send about 100 letters to non-owner occupied vacation home rent owners. And I say something like, hey, just wanted to see if you're interested in the value of your home and what the market's doing. I have some investors who are interested in a property like yours. I'm going to be in town on Thursday, Friday. I'll be at this location. If you're interested in meeting up, please give me a call. And I would say about every vacation I go on, I get at least 1 or 2 referrals that I'm able to hand off to one of those people in that local market. Now, if you don't do this, if you're not into that, don't do it, right? It's just one thing of many. But what I'm saying is there's a second home farming activity that you can do. And if you want to know more about that, go on KW Connect, type in second home farming, and you're going to find a bunch of resources that are way smarter than I am do all the time. But it's just something to consider if you do like to travel, especially when things start opening back up. Well, actually, especially now, because a lot of these short-term rental are not being rented out. And so there's a market for that right now. We talked about the different age groups, right? And a lot of your folks are moving up here who are in their 60s, 70s, because they're done. Their kids, you know what we found in some of the research we did, and you guys live down there, so you might know, you might see a different story. But the research that we've done is most people who are the late millennials or those eco boomers, that's what you want to call it, Generation X, whatever it is, they don't stay in the Bay Area. They don't stay in the Bay. Nearly every single family, retired couple that we've helped that moved up to the Bay, moved up to the Sacramento area from the Bay, and some of the research and analytics that we've ran, a lot of their kids, they move out of the Bay. They're moving to Portland, they're moving to Southern California, they're moving to Nevada, they're moving to Idaho, they're moving to Austin, our home, right? And so these people have no kids. So they like to come up here because they're like, you know what, I got nothing left there. My kids moved, I don't, my grandkids, I don't see them. All three of my kids live in a different spot in the world. So they're all different. Understand the statistics around this slide. What are the fastest groups of buyers? I don't know the answer down there, but I know that a lot of people up here are first-time home buyers. They're late 30s, early maybe mid 30s. They got 1 or 2 kids. They're ready to buy. They've been saving for a down payment. They're ready to go. We don't have a lot of foreign-born customers up in this area. A lot of people buying homes up here. However, if that's something that you want to dig into, there's a lot of information and a huge market for that. Become an expert. Familiarize yourself with it, right? Dig into that. It is, there's a huge market for that, and I encourage you, if you have passion around it, become that person. We talked about hey, I'm ahead of schedule. We talked about second home and investor buyers, right? I think I gave you some good info on that. 35% of home sales are second homes. That number is actually a little higher right now. I think it's like 40% right now, which is just absolutely crazy. Do you know that I was on a second home mastermind group call out of Austin about 2 weeks ago? And I learned tons. Our friend, which is probably your friend too, Carolyn Woe, was on that call as well. And do you know that there are more people buying second homes up in the Sacramento area than ever before? They're moving to like Placerville as a second home, or just to get a second home in Folsom or El Dorado Hills or Rockland or Granite Bay or Auburn, just to get away. And all of those are Bay Area people. There are people who are, in their 30s, 40s, maybe early 50s. They just they're weekend warriors, right? They just want to get away for the weekend, maybe extend a weekend, come up here, stay for the weekend. This is information that you guys should be marketing to your sphere, to your data bank, to your farm, that right now is a great opportunity for second home investments. And by the way, we cover Tahoe, Truckee, Donner as well, right? On the back of our shirts and on our value prop was we sell tons of real estate in Tahoe right now, all second home. A lot of those people are coming from the Bay. There's the luxury home clientele. If you're not involved in the luxury, we're one of the luxury brand agents. Just there's a lot of good value in there. I'm not going to get into a lot of that. Power session, we're going to get over that. Any questions right now? I'm a big believer in what we call sweet spots, right? In gift zones. If you're at this point where we're on, the 38th slide, and you're starting to think, gosh, I really like the idea of farming, but it's just not something I really have interest in. Don't do it. Don't do it. There's a trillion other things you can do. Trillion. Not kidding, with a T, that you can do to earn a fantastic living in real estate. Because if you don't have passion behind what you're doing on your lead gen, then you're not going to have energy around it long term. And it's just not going to be healthy for anyone. We're a big believer in having fulfillment in what you do. And so whatever you find your lane, stick to it, love it, have passion around it. And this is a really important page because you got to have, got to be able to identify with these things on people. and select your farm at a high level. After we're done, you're going to have to take 10 minutes to do this exercise. Okay, so if you don't have this slide in front of you, take a picture of it. I think it's really important to kind of determine on if the farm is for you or not, and run some exercises, run some metrics around it. Okay. I don't have the money to lead generate. Well, I've never bought a lead. Okay, so we can move on from that one. And by the way, let's change the terminology. Instead of lead generation, we'll do what Gene Rivers says. Gene Rivers says just talking to people. Right? He says just talk to people. Just talk to people about real estate, wherever you are. Figure it out. Find out a way to bring it up in conversation. For example, I mean, we all know the FORD acronym, right? Family, Occupation, Recreation, Dreams. What happens when I get to O? When I say, how's your family? I say, great. How's your family? I say, great. I say, hey, how's work been? You guys still busy? And they say, oh my gosh, we've never been busier. And then what do they normally say? How's the market? They bring it up, not me. And as soon as they say, what? Huh? Did they? Well, actually depends. Why do you ask? Do you have an investment rental? You're going to buy a second home? Do you have a property to sell? You're thinking about buying? You're thinking about selling? It's really different. It just depends what you have in mind. And you start the dialogue. Then you know that they crack the door open up, you put your foot there, and you're in, right? You're prying that door open, you're getting in, you're going to make it happen. You're just talking to people, right? You're just talking to people. Establish relationships first, right? Reputation versus relationships. Be sincere about who you are. Come from contribution, right? Come from contribution. That's a bold law. It's our belief system. It's on our wall. And create a culture in your farm, right? Create a culture in your farm. Have a prospecting base. Create a culture of production in your world, not a culture of distraction. Be intentional with your conversations, right? Build those relationships. I kind of went over this a little bit. Metrics, right? Break it down. Break it down. How many number of homes in my farm? Divided by the weeks I will knock doors. Times 3 minutes per door equals how many minutes I'll devote each week to my farm. Work smarter, not harder. Come from contribution. I'm way ahead of schedule here. Look at this. Have something of value. What sort of value are you adding, right? Are you more than just, can I sell your home guy or girl? Are you more than just that guy or girl? Create a community event. Share things on flyers and your door drops, right? You don't have to sponsor anything. You might just want to promote something that's going on. You know, we have Halloween right around the corner, right? How can we participate? How can our neighborhood participate in a safe, COVID-compliant Halloween? Is there something that the neighborhood is doing, if it's a trunk or treat or some kind of a weird social distancing Halloween thing that's going on, that you can just help promote? Our big thing is we promote events that are currently already happening. We just help promote them. So in a normal year, when we do 26, 27, 28 events every year, we're only hosting three events. We're just tacking on and coming from contribution, helping add value, and inviting our farm to those other events. Sorry, my light turned off, right? Any questions?
Yeah, Ricky, can you give an example of one of the events that you tag onto?
Yeah. The examples that I'm using are not current because we're not doing things like that right now, but I'll give you an example for next year when things open back up, is our community concerts. Community bike parades, community yard sales, community picnics. Maybe maybe there's a crab feed going on, right? We have a rodeo. We do sponsor the rodeo, but we also help promote it. Maybe there's a car show, right? Maybe there's a drive-up concert. And a lot of people are doing drive-up concerts now. Those sort of things. So there are events that are currently happening. We just happen to help promote them. Maybe there's a big Halloween something going on. Maybe you have I'll give you one that's in almost every neighborhood and it's still happening, is farmers markets. Is that what you're looking for, Laura?
Yeah, that was awesome. So what I'm hearing you saying is anything that's in your farm that's going on, you make sure that you're publicizing it. And at times you're also helping sponsor it. So it's a combination of, depending on, it might just be that you're getting the word out and not really spending any money on it, but at other times you're actually spending some money on it too.
Most of the time, actually, of the 26, 27 times a year, we're only spending money on 3 of them.
Yeah, and are you also doing stuff like park bus benches and any like school, all the school stuff? Are you doing, helping sponsor anything that's involved in your farm area?
Yes. So we only sponsor sports teams or schools if any of our agents have kids in that school. And we have a photo booth. We have 2 photo booths actually, where we donate the photo booth to almost any event for the schools or local nonprofits, where they take a photo, they immediately put to Facebook, and then it says donated by the More Real Estate Group. And there's all of a sudden like 200 photos that go all over the world, and our logo's right on top of it.
Yeah.
We haven't been able to do that this year. Earlier this year we did, but obviously we're not doing that now.
Sure, of course. Yeah. I mean, some of this is temporary, and you're thinking, because you're a smart business person, you think long term.
Well, also, I mean, every city has stuff going on now still, right? If you just go to your city website or your community website, if you don't create a community website, you can just right there on the spot, just put in your own stuff, right?
Yeah.
About being the mayor.
One of the things, yeah, exactly. And you guys are just super smart at thinking outside the box. What was the thing you brought up earlier? The Cinco de Mayo thing, that was brilliant. I hope everybody else's mind was as blown as mine, that during a COVID year where you can't celebrate Cinco de Mayo like you normally would, you found a way to support business owners by pulling them together and getting them to talk about their businesses. I mean, again, mind-blowing, really smart.
Not only that, but we made everyone register just to get the link.
Yeah.
So it wasn't.
Hello, smart, you guys. I hope you're hearing all this and taking notes.
So the funny thing about that one is we made everyone register to get the link, but then once they got the link, we changed it. And we put it, the response email they got was directly to our Facebook page.
Yeah.
So
Great.
It was live on Facebook, but only our team was allowed to be on the Zoom, right?
Yeah.
And it was great. They had like 800 some people watched it live, and then we were able to help, several local businesses in that.
And so you're blowing up Facebook at the same time then.
Yep.
Really smart.
So yeah, and then create a list of local businesses too. You talk about, not just events, but a lot of local businesses are doing some really cool, innovative things right now. I was out to eat dinner the other night, and I thought to myself, like I said, I've spent a lot of time in Santa Barbara. If you know anything about Santa Barbara, State Street leads right into the pier, and there's a lot of activity right there. Well, they shut down State Street about probably 5 or 6 blocks where a lot of the majority of the restaurants are, where they're putting the restaurants into the street. And the city did a fantastic job of putting like picket fences and palm tree bushes around to make it look like there's I don't even think I'm sitting in the street. I think I'm sitting on a really cool outdoor patio. You see what I'm saying? So the things that a lot of businesses are doing that, and I want to celebrate those businesses. Early in the COVID, it's another thing that we did is we were doing these virtual happy hour events where we went to local restaurants and we had them kind of share a couple of their menu items. It was all because we were doing all takeout, So we went to several local restaurants. We interviewed via Zoom the owner or the chef. They would tell us how to make a dish and then how to make 2 drinks. And again, we sent it out. It said register here. They would register. We'd go live on Facebook and we'd get their data. So there's a list of things that we did this last year that was able to create a lot of extra value to our people while we're adding non-METs to our data bank.
So you guys just, Ricky has a big team, lot of good brain power to, and so you can build to what he's talking about. Ricky, can you go back to some of the earlier days and talk a little bit about how you started out with, you know, maybe you started with 4 events and then moved to 8 and then 12. Like, can you go backwards a little bit?
For sure, yeah. Well, you know, before I was in real estate, I was a client of my partner, Brian. So I came into it thinking, well, this is the only way this is the only thing I know is Brian invites me to a lot of cool stuff. And so we started kind of upping that a little bit and 10Xing it, where we were still doing our own events, but it was like 1 or 2. And then what happened is I kind of, those, you know, concerts in the parks start kind of getting real popular. And I was really good friends with some of the promoters of those concerts in the park. So they gave us the concert list before it went public. So what we did is we started throwing that on postcards and on making flyers to send it out to everyone. So you have, you know, 4 or 5 different venues every night with the concerts and the dates. So we put that out on Facebook, and unbeknownst to us, it actually took off where the very first year we did it, it had like 1.2 thousand shares. And we were branding it. All we were doing was saying, here's the concert schedule for the year. And then people shared it like crazy. Yeah. And what happened one day is a friend of mine came into town, and he stayed at a local hotel, which is right down the street behind me at the Marriott Courtyard. And at the Marriott Courtyard, they printed out our concert schedule and they put it on the registration where you check in. There was a stack of our concert schedules this size right there in the stack. He takes a picture of it and he says, you guys are everywhere. And I'm like, oh my God, what a great idea. Next year, we're going to print extras and go deliver it to all local businesses. And we did that. And of course, that wasn't even our event. It's just something that we wanted to get out to the community.
There you go.
And you can do that with anything.
Yeah.
And they're not going to complain. They're not going to complain. You know, a couple other things we did too during this COVID virtual event was just doing business seminars. I mean, guys, KW is the #1 coaching and training company in the world. We have awesome value, right? If you want to reach out to your top 40 business allied partners and say, hey guys, we're doing guess what? What's tomorrow? What are you doing tomorrow, Laura?
Business planning clinic.
You should invite at least 20 of your closest allied resource partners to a business planning clinic.
Yep. They need it too, right? It's not just real estate. This is business planning for small business owners. Yeah.
Most of the awesome classes, 6 personal perspectives, one thing, business planning clinic, you name it, have really little to do with real estate.
Yeah.
And what better way to add value to people who are struggling right now and wondering how they're going to get out of this than adding an awesome class, business planning clinic. Who's teaching that class, Laura?
We've got Chris Suarez's team helping us with it.
Okay, come on, right?
I know, right? Yeah.
Come on,
Mic drop. Mic drop.
Closing out, a couple more things I got to get through. I don't know how many slides we have left, but I'm just going to get through what I want to talk about. Is be the mayor. Okay, be consistent, right? Monthly newsletter, monthly postcards, door knocks, door drops, pop buys. Some of the pop buys we did this year were really great with the chalk, the donuts. I know we have to be careful with what we're doing. I know every county, every jurisdiction is different. So just know the rules that you can do in your area before you do anything at all. And then finally, are there any questions at all? Because I want to do time for one more exercise and then some Q&A, and I want you to share some ahas with me. Anything before I go into my last exercise? So when you're thinking about farm and farming and being whatever, right? And we're trying to track activities. I just want to show you an exercise where you don't have to be an expert in really anything to be successful in real estate. You just have to be consistent with what you're doing. And for those that are like newer, or this is new to you or new concept, don't worry. Just be consistent with it, right? You don't have to like really get too much energy around it or be scared of it or whatever. Don't worry. So one thing to do here, let me turn this light off here so that you can see me better, if I can do that. Okay, so one thing to do is, how many weeks in a year?
52.
52 weeks in a year. Okay, so let's say that you decided to take off 12 weeks a year. How many weeks are you actually working then per year?
40.
40 weeks in a year. Laura, have you seen me do this before?
I've seen it. I think I know where you're going. I've seen the math.
So now you're working 40 weeks a year because you're taking 12 weeks off, like me. Okay? So now you're working 40 weeks a year. So let's say that what's kind of the number that we always say in bold on how many people per week we should talk to?
What is it, you guys?
100.
100. So let's say that we're only going to do half of that. Okay? Let's say we're only going to talk to 50 people per week. Okay? Right? So
Right.
hang in there, people. Hang in there. Don't be scared. So if you're working 40 weeks a year and you're talking to 50 people a week, how many people per year are you talking to?
4,000. Wait, 40 times 100. What is that? 40,000?
That's 2,000, right?
2,000?
That's 2,000.
40 weeks times
That's you're talking to 2,000
50.
people per year
Oh, times 50.
about real estate. Okay?
I was 100. Uh-huh.
Okay? So let's say that you're talking to 2,000 people per year about real estate, and your conversion ratio to get an appointment is only 1%. Right? Let's just say your conversion ratio is only 1%. How many appointments per year will you have then? 20 appointments per year. Right? So let's say that your conversion ratio at the appointment is only 50%. Right? Only 50%, which is really not that great. Ours is about 80%.
Yeah.
But we'll just go in worst case scenario. That means you're guaranteed, by only talking to 50 people a week, working 40 weeks a year, you're guaranteed 10 listings per year. Right? So you're probably thinking, well, that's not that great. And I'm thinking, well, it's more than average. Right? So you're talking, okay, now I'm at 10 listings per year. Now, how many pieces of business per listing should we get? 2, right?
You should get another listing and at least one buyer out of every listing.
At least. So then that's how many more pieces of business, right? So that's 10, really 10 plus 10 plus 10. So this is 10 more buyers, 10 more sellers. How many people, so then how many pieces of business per year does this equal to by taking 12 weeks off a year and working part-time every year with terrible conversion ratios?
Looks like a pretty good business to me.
That's 30 units a year. You guys are all shaking your head. You're like, holy crap. That means that I am actually not talking to the right people. I'm working harder, not smarter. And I really need to do something different so that I can take off 12 weeks a year and sell 30 homes in a year. So you get to 30 homes a year by working part-time, 40 hours a week, only 1% appointment conversion ratio, 50% conversion ratio at the appointments, and then getting 2 pieces of business out of every listing.
And can I just add, your ratio is, well, first of all, it's never going to be 1%, and it's going to go up because you're going to get better at it every single time. Practice, right?
And Laura, I use that as a like a worst case scenario.
Yeah.
First day on the job scenario.
Right. Yep.
So here's the reason I do this exercise after every class I teach, is because this tells me that most of us are just not consistent in our activities.
It's not even that, Ricky. It's narrow it down to the one thing most people aren't doing. They're not talking to 50 people a week. That's it, period. There's nothing else there. That's it.
That's 10 people a day.
Mm-hmm.
10 people a day. So before we end this time, because I know we only have 3 minutes left, I need at least 2 ahas.
Okay.
Talk to 10 people a day.
Yeah, there you go. And then even break that down, Yvonne. How long does it take for you to talk to 10 people a day? Can we stop sharing, Ricky, so we can all look at each other? Can you stop sharing the thing? Is that okay?
I don't know how to do that, but
Let me see if I can do it.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go.
How long does it take to talk to 10 people a day? Is it all day long?
3 minutes per conversation.
No.
Yeah, a couple of hours maybe, right?
Our point talking to people is not to sell them over the phone or in person, it's to set the appointment.
It's to build a relationship, right? What was the first thing you said when we started this class?
I said that our
Who
goal
can I connect with?
is to build relationships, not sell homes.
Yep. My biggest aha is I just have to go back. I grew up on a farm, and I have to go back to the whole word farming and understand. You've got to understand why they call it farming. If you planted a garden and you put some seeds in there and you watered it and then you walked away and didn't touch it for 3 or 4 months, is anything going to grow besides some weeds? No.
Oh.
And that's the whole point. This is a farm that has to be tended to regularly. So my biggest aha every time I listen to a farming class is it's all about the repetition of doing it on a consistent basis. Don't start a farm and then walk away. I remember I talked to one agent a number of years ago when I was the productivity coach and I was coaching. She was doing a different farm every month. And I said, that's not farming. You guys think about the analogy on that. That's a different field or a different garden every month. What are you really going to grow out of that? That's really more of that 1% you're talking about, Ricky. She may get a few things, 1% of it, but you really can have such a higher rate of return if you actually tend your garden like you should. That's my aha.
Thank you for sharing. All right, everyone. Appreciate your time today. I'll respect your time because I know it's 3 o'clock and we all have to get going and start making our phone calls and setting up our goals for business planning clinic tomorrow. Laura, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you guys. And if you ever overhear someone wanting to buy or sell real estate in the Sacramento area, hopefully you think of us first.
Yep. Thank you so much, Ricky. Excellent job. Well done.
Guys,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ricky. Thank you.